Hey there, everyone. That sexy nerd is back again. And for those of you who tuned in last year for my House of the Dragon reviews, we're going off a Think Story again, man. Oh, and also New Rockstars. I never got to finish New Rockstars because I got way too into Think Story, but I'm going to try and incorporate both if they show it today. I don't know. It still hasn't even come out at the time of this recording. But yeah, I've really been excited. Also, I hear he split it up into two parts, and he showed the actual ending from the books, from the book, the actual a son for a son thing, and yeah, I was talking about it all in my reaction. Speaking of which, you can now watch my full-length reactions to House of the Dragon on Patreon. Unfortunately, I will not be able to upload it to YouTube, but it will be available on Patreon. So if you want to see my full-length reaction to all the episodes of House of the Dragon as they come out, check out my Patreon. Link will be in the description below. But anyway, I haven't seen Think Story stuff in a while. I mean, I kind of dabble here and then, but whenever it's House of the Dragon, I'm like, there's nothing else I'd rather watch other than New Rockstars. I was also considering heavy spoilers, but I felt like, it might be a little too much for y'all, but let me know in the comments below if you want me to do heavy spoilers episode reviews of House of the Dragon. I'll do it. But anyway, let's just get into the episode and have them explain everything that happened in the story. And how it relates to the show. So please, smash that like button if you want to see more sexy and nerdy content, and subscribe if you think I deserve it. And let's do this thing, y'all.
Hot embroidering action, big-ass dragons, hot embroidering action, and the craziest use of an eye for an eye since the Bible. Season 2 of HBO's hotly anticipated series, House...
August 21st. Why does it say August 21st? Is that when it's going to end? Or is that last year? That wasn't last year. Last year it came out in the same time.
The Dragon, based off the book Fire and Blood, has just released its first episode, and I'm here trying to breathe harder than Viserys on his deathbed. In this video, we'll be taking a deep dive into the episode, differences from the book, and answering some of your biggest questions. Keep in mind there will be no spoilers beyond this episode. And make sure to like and subscribe. I'll be doing all sorts of House of the Dragon videos throughout the season. Season 2 starts with a brand new intro credit sequence. Whereas Season 1's intro followed the Targaryen line of succession, Season 2 tells a much more expansive retelling of the entire dynasty going back hundreds of years. And we all know how much Daemon loves tapestries.
Would you like to see the tapestry?
I think it was Viserys.
Depicts events such as the Doom of Valeria, in which a series of volcanoes known as the 14 Flames erupted, consuming the city in fire and ash. This event would lead to Aegon's conquest and his eventual rule over the Seven Kingdoms. We'll later see House Arryn, Stark, and Tully all bending the knee, with the Targaryen crest ruling over King's Landing. As we continue the Targaryen story, we'll see King Maegor the Cruel, who was found dead on the Iron Throne with his arms slashed and a blade through his neck coming out of his chin. From Maegor, we go to King Jaehaerys I and his wife Alicent. We saw Jaehaerys at the Great Council of 101 AD, in which his grandson Viserys would take over the throne upon his death. This event is also depicted in the tapestry, where we can see Viserys and his wife Aemma on the left, and Corlys Velaryon and Princess Rhaenys on the right. The Queen Mother Alicent is seen here representing Team Green in the civil war known as
Team Green. They suck.
On the opposite end is Rhaenyra representing Team Black. You'll see members of their respective teams on either side. Finally, we have Rhaenyra sitting on the throne at Dragonstone and Aegon on the Iron Throne. For those of you who have read the book, there is another image of a major event that occurs, but we're not going to get into spoilers. The episode begins with a somber reflection on duty by Cregan Stark.
Duty is sacrifice. It eclipses all things.
It is this sense of duty that is at the heart of the impending civil war, and many of our characters will be forced to choose between two duties. Cregan, the duty between protecting the North from attack, and the duty of aiding his sworn queen. Rhaenyra between the duty of being a mother and the duty of being the queen. As you can see, this can get very messy. Duty is so important to House Stark that 1 in every 10 men is sent to fortify the wall at the onset of every winter. It is Cregan's sense of duty that Lord Jacaerys Velaryon appeals to when asking for men to join in the fight against Aegon. Remember, at the end of Season 3, Rhaenyra sent her 2 boys to enlist the help of various houses across Westeros. Cregan is the great-great-great-great-grandfather of Eddard Stark, and he has taken Jace to the wall just as his father took Lord Jaehaerys years ago. To make things even more ominous, he tells how the Targaryen dragons wouldn't go beyond the wall, foreshadowing the eventual rise of the White Walkers. Rhaenyra sent her second eldest, Lucerys, on an easier mission, thinking House Baratheon at Storm's End would undoubtedly be on their side. This would prove a costly mistake, as we saw what happened at the end of the season. Prince Aemon's killing of Luke is considered the opening salvo of the Dance of Dragons, the name of the civil war which pits King Aegon's greens and Queen Rhaenyra's blacks. Since the book Fire and Blood is presented as a historical treatise, it contains different accounts of what actually happened to Luke. With
let me see that.
a historical treatise, it contains
Okay, let's see. There up top is Jaehaerys and his wife Elena. Right next to him is Maegor the Cruel. Right next to him with the chalice in his hand is Viserys Targaryen, the one from the show, Paddy Constantine. That's what he originally was like in the show. Right below him is Aegon II Targaryen. I can tell by his crown. The two who are standing next to each other with the 2 sisters, that's obviously Aegon the Conqueror. And also, I think we have Aenys. Yeah, to his left we have Aenys, and to his right is Aegon III, ironically. I mean, Rhaenyra is not up here at all, but this is the original bloodline, I think. Wow.
Accounts of what actually happened to Luke, with one account stating that the prince actually survived but lost all memory of who he was, spending the rest of his days as a simple-minded fisherman. In the book, Rhaenyra never finds the dragon wing and Luke's shawl along the shore, but I think this was a good addition to give Rhaenyra closure and to fuel her vengeance.
Yes.
Upon hearing of his younger brother's death, Jace makes his way back to Dragonstone, having secured 2,000 of Cregan's men and the support of House Arryn in exchange for protection of the Vale with a dragon. Rhaenys, the queen who never was, returns from her patrol at sea. Corlys Velaryon's fleet have created a naval blockade around the Gullet, essentially cutting off any trade with King's Landing. Later in the episode, we'll see King Aegon II take a petition from a smith named Hugh.
That is Hugh Hammer!
Front to create weapons. Aegon is quick to say yes, not knowing that the coffers could soon dry up if the capital has no trade. We'll see just how naive Aegon is as his kingdom sits on the brink of civil war. He pays little attention during the small council, gets drunk with his buddies at night, and has to constantly be reminded how things work by his hand and grandfather Otto Hightower. With Rhaenyra on the lookout for the body of her son, an impulsive Daemon wants to gather his dragon and head to King's Landing with Rhaenys to kill Vhagar and Aemond. A son for a son, both the title of this episode and line straight from the book. As we'll see throughout the episode, war has made Daemon particularly distrustful. He chastises Rhaenys for not killing Aegon during his coronation ceremony.
If you'd have acted when you had the chance, Aegon's line would be extinguished.
And openly states his distrust of Ser Erryk even after this guy risked life and limb to bring Rhaenyra her father's crown,
Daemon's a
leaving
cunt, though.
his twin brother Ser Auric, who is limb to bring Rhaenyra her father's crown.
Yeah, but Daemon's
his twin
ridiculous.
brother Ser Auric, who is loyal to Aegon in the process. Rhaenys will not follow Daemon's command, for he is not king.
Would that you were the king.
Corlys Velaryon is looking a little worse for wear as he inspects the damage done to his ship. Here we meet Alan of Hull.
That is Alan of
saved
Hull.
Corlys from drowning in the Stepstones.
They tell me that you're the one that dragged my body out of the sea.
It was only my duty.
He's had the smithy prepare a blade for Corlys's grandson Luke, but he won't be needing that anymore. While this scene doesn't really advance the plot, as a reader of the book I can see why they put it in. But we'll come back to that as the season progresses. Sir Ark, the twin brother loyal to Aegon, keeps watch along the ramparts of King's Landing as Vhagar and Aemond return home. Here we get a look at one of those expensive ballistas used to bring down dragons. With Aegon king, his wife Helena, who also happens to be his sister, is queen. Aegon has come to take his son Jaehaerys, yes, named after this Jaehaerys, to take part in the small council, for he will one day be king. In the background you can make out Jaehaera, Jaehaerys' twin sister, making it difficult to tell the two apart, which becomes a pivotal plot point. Helena tells Aegon that she's afraid of the rats, a rather odd thing to say, but Helena is no stranger to saying weird prophetic things. In season 1, she predicted her brother losing an eye.
You will have a dragon one day.
He'll have to close an eye.
She predicts the Dance of Dragons.
Ansley, spool of green, spool of black. Dragons, the flesh, weaving dragons of thread.
And Rhaenys' escape from the dragon pit.
There is a beast beneath the boards.
Oh, that's what it was.
Rats, of course, refer to the characters Blood and Cheese posing as rat catchers to kill her child. In fact, if you pay close attention, you can see the rat catcher Cheese in many of the early scenes, like here and here. Well, Alicent has gone from showing her feet to giving Creston something to eat. I apologize. With her ex-husband King Viserys dead, she needs a little TLC, and Creston is more than willing to help. She says this is the last time this will happen, but we'll see the two together in bed after the episode's chilling finale.
Whatever women say is the last time, it's always going to happen again.
Aegon's small council is composed of his mother Alicent, Hand Otto Hightower, Lord of Laws Jasper Wilde, Grand Maester Orwyle, and Master of Coin Tywin Lannister, whose twin brother Jason is currently amassing an army to fight by Aegon's side at Golden Tooth. The big question is, which houses will pledge their allegiance to Aegon? By marrying Aemond off to Lady Floris Baratheon, they've gained the support of Storm's End. Lord Ormond Hightower is also busy amassing forces from Old Town in the south, but with ravens sent to Winterfell and the Vale with no response, it's not looking good. Things are also not looking good at sea, with the blockade starting to inflict a heavy toll on the capital. There's a suggestion that Lord Dalton Greyjoy be offered the position of Master of Ships, a position previously held by Corlys in exchange for his fleet. But the most strategic point they need to fortify is Harrenhal to the north, which is currently in their control under the command of Lord Simon Strong, Larys' great uncle. Speaking of Larys, Alicent meets with the Master of Whisperers, who vaguely implies he knows she was hooking up with Criston. Blackmail is his weapon of choice against the poor queen, and he's even had any traitorous staff of hers executed and replaced with those loyal to him.
They're all
this
dead.
makes him even more powerful, as they will no doubt report to him on the queen's comings and goings. This paranoia seeps into the next scene as Alicent dismisses her handmaidens as they give her a bath. The king's naivete is on full display during the taking of petitions. You can tell that he wants to be a good king, offering to give back the sheep he took from this poor cattle farmer. But he doesn't understand why they were taken in the first place and has to renege on his promise. In a private meeting between Alicent and Otto, the two talk about how Aegon is still enamored with the quote novelty of rule. When that wanes, the two of them can steer Aegon as they wish to achieve their common goal. But Alicent is pissed at her father for undermining her at the small council in front of her sons, stating,
But if you undermine my voice, both those boys will grow deaf to it.
Speaking of influencing the king, that no-good Larys takes Aegon aside and plants the idea of ousting Hightower, basically stating Otto has already served two kings faithfully. Maybe it's time King Aegon has someone new. We'll see these cutaway shots of Larys as he watches as Otto advises the king, so he knows how easy Aegon can be manipulated by him and be manipulated in general. Corlys's fleet stumbles upon a merchant vessel carrying Mysaria, the White Worm, Daemon's former paramour. She sold secrets to Otto Hightower in his quest to usurp the throne, thus making her an enemy of Rhaenyra. But Daemon strikes a deal with her. Mysaria has a vast network of spies and shady friends in Fleabottom, the dregs of King's Landing. Perhaps she'll know someone with the skills needed to infiltrate the castle and kill Aemond. An eye for an eye, after all. After mourning her son, Rhaenyra returns to Dragonstone and says her only line in the entire episode.
I want Aemond Targaryen.
Her war council, also known as the Black Council, gives us some insight as to what will happen in the upcoming episodes, with Daemon, Baela, and Rhaena stating they will take Harrenhal with their dragon. Detail I enjoyed here was Jace comforted by his betrothed, Baela, as he updates his mother on his mission to the north. Although the words he says are all about his travels, the real emotion here is a mother and son mourning the loss of a brother and son. This leads to a makeshift funeral where different possessions of Luke's are tossed into the pyre. But I also like how this was juxtaposed with Alicent lighting candles and saying a prayer for the dead in the same sept she and Rhaenyra frequented as kids. Alicent says a prayer for 3 deceased people. The first, Alarie Florent, her mother and wife to Otto, the second, her husband King Viserys, and third, Lucerys. It shows that Alicent still has empathy for someone who is technically her enemy, and also her step-grandson.
It won't happen after this episode, though, because of the killing of the kids.
She holds love for our enemy. That makes her a fool.
We also get this mournful shot of
like
Rhaena, who was betrothed to Luke.
Lucerys.
Daemon makes the perilous journey to King's Landing in disguise. And by disguise, I mean just a cloak. As a former commander of the City Watch, Daemon still has members loyal to him, and that's where this guy named Blood comes in. Blood will lead Daemon to Cheese, who was the man Mysaria told him was the right man for the job. Not only was he one of the castle's rat catchers, which allows him to get around without drawing attention, he knows all the castle's secret passages better than
The shape of my arm.
The deal is to kill Prince Aemond, and Cheese asks what they should do if they can't find him, to which we never get an answer. The book never gives a definitive answer on who the primary target was, but we can rule out King Aegon as he would always be surrounded by his Kingsguard. Meanwhile, Sir Criston Cole and Prince Aemond gripe about how long it's taking to go to war. Aegon, upon the guidance of Otto and his mother, has taken things slow. We even get insight into how duplicitous Aemond thinks his mother is. On the one hand, Alicent blames Aemond for starting this war, but on the other, she was the one who helped Aegon usurp the throne in the first place. Otto goes on to warn Aemond not to get a grip on his impulses and not to make plans behind his and the king's back. It's hard to tell if this is a word of advice or a warning. Under the guise of rat catchers, Blood and Cheese make their way through the sewers and tunnels, bypassing with ease Aegon sitting on the throne. We even get to see this statue of Viserys being crafted. No doubt he's turning in his grave at what his child and wife have started. In the royals' quarters, Aemond's room proves to be empty, but it's not long before they discover Helaena and her 2 sleeping children. Now, I will have a separate video on the differences between the show and book version because it's absolutely insane what happens in the book.
Yeah, so I will be covering that video once this one ends. I'm going to immediately jump right into it. So both will be listed in the description.
The mission was a son for a son, and they ask which of the 2 children is the boy. It's important they kill the boy and not the girl, considering the boy is next in line to the throne. She points to her son, and the 2 men go on to sever his head, while Helaena grabs her daughter and runs to her mother.
They killed the boy.
The book version of this event plays out a lot different. Rather than searching around the castle for the royals, Blood and Cheese sneak into Alicent's room, knowing that Helaena comes with her children every night to kiss their grandma. At this point in the book, Jaehaerys and Jahara are 6 years old, and Helaena has a 2-year-old son named Maelor with them as well. Blood and Cheese gag and tie Alicent and await for Helena's arrival, ultimately holding them all at knife point. This is where things get absolutely insane. Not only does Blood end up her 6-year-old girl, but Cheese makes Helena choose which son to kill. She chooses Maelor, the younger of the two, and Cheese turns to Maelor and says, "Your mama wants you dead," and instead of killing him, kills Jaehaerys. So now this kid has to live the rest of his life with the fact his mother chose him to die. I won't go into what happens to Blood and Cheese after this event, but make sure you're subscribed, as this will undoubtedly come into play next episode.
Yes, it will.
A shell-shocked Helena takes Jahara into her mother's chamber, not even computing that Alicent was being intimate with Criston Cole. The final chilling line, "They killed the boy." You can rest assured that if there was any way to avoid war, it is now no longer an option. The Game of Thrones universe is no stranger to shocking twists. From the beheading of Ed Stark, the murder of Oberyn Martell, and the Red Wedding, just to name a few. However, there is one event that stands out as particularly brutal. One that is so violent, HBO had to drastically change how it played out in the show.
You know, there's so many videos on YouTube saying, like, too dark for HBO. Yeah, it's really sad that they can't actually do what happened in the book, you know, because I'm sure we could handle it. I mean, they've already shown so much R-word everywhere that this is too much. I mean, come on.
I'm talking, of course, about Blood and Cheese.
Yeah.
If you thought what played out in the show was bad, what happens in the book is 10 times worse. So if you're in any way squeamish or don't want to be spoiled, click away now. Like the show, the impetus for this event is the death of Lucerys Velaryon. However, the only line of dialogue Queen Rhaenyra has in the entire episode, in which she states that she wants Aemon Targaryen, although dramatic in the show, does not happen in the book. It's actually Luke's younger brother Joffrey who, upon hearing of his brother's death, tries to take off on his dragon to enact revenge. But he's stopped by Corlys and Princess Rhaenys. In the show, he is definitely too young for this. Daemon is the mastermind of this plot. However, the book makes no mention of capturing Mysaria, the White Worm, and setting her free in exchange for information. There is mention of a, quote, pale stranger who is a special friend he trusted, and Blood will later tell us that the contact who put him in touch with Daemon was foreign, cloaked, and pale. The harlots call her Misery. As former commander of the City Watch and playboy prince of the city, Daemon was not unfamiliar with the city's worst of the worst. He gets in touch with a man named Blood. His real name and that of his partner were lost to history, thus they were remembered simply as Blood and Cheese. In the show, Daemon meets Blood, who's a loyal member of the City Watch, of which Daemon used to command. However, in the book, Blood lost his position on the City Watch due to beating a whore to death. So Blood is a kind of guy who's got nothing to lose. He leads Daemon to Cheese, who, just like in the book, says he knows Maegor's tunnels like the back of his cock. In the book, Daemon never explicitly states that he wants Aemon dead, simply a son for a son. However, there is mention that the two assassins don't even bother trying to kill King Aegon, as he'd likely be surrounded by his Kingsguard. The book does not have Blood and Cheese walking past the throne room, just that they were able to get into the heart of the castle unseen by any guard, possible due to secret passageways and Maegor's tunnels. In fact, the two don't even disguise themselves as rat catchers. Reaching the royal chambers is where things really start to differ in the books. Blood and Cheese make their way to Alicent's chambers around dusk, not in the dead of night. They know that Helena comes with the kids to say goodnight to their grandma every night before bed. In the show, Alicent is in a whole other area of the keep. Upon arriving in Alicent's chambers, they find that Alicent and one of her bedmaids are already there, and they proceed to bind and gag Alicent while Blood strangles the bedmaid to death. Then they sit and wait. It's not long before Helena arrives with her children, falling victim to Blood and Cheese's trap.
Yeah, speaking of the maid, I was so scared for that maid. I was like, wait a minute. But like that whole thing like just ended. She just left. And she looked so worried at first. So what the hell? Like they just wasted the maid. Like they did kill her in the book.
Now, there are a few important differences here. In the book, Helena has three children,
kids.
6-year-old twins, Jaehaerys and Jahara, and 2-year-old Maelor. The twins are much younger in the show, and there is no Maelor. Helena is also accompanied by a few guardsmen, which Blood quickly kills. So we already have a pretty high death count, and we haven't even gotten to the truly horrific stuff. According to the book, Helena does a pretty good job keeping her calm, all things considered, and Cheese assures her that as long as they get one of her sons, no one else will be hurt. Helena even pleads that they take her life instead. And while Helena makes the unfathomable choice of which of her children to kill, Cheese warns the queen to make her decision soon before Blood goes and her 6-year-old daughter, and I can't imagine HBO wants to go anywhere near that. With two sons to choose from, Helena eventually chooses Maelor, with the narrator theorizing this choice may have been because Jaehaerys was next in line to the throne, or that Maelor was simply too young to understand what's going on. With Maelor chosen, Cheese taunts the boy, saying, "You hear that, little boy? Your mama wants you dead." And instead of killing him, he kills Jaehaerys, so that Maelor and Helena will have to live the rest of their lives with the knowledge that she chose him to die. Blood then slices Jaehaerys' head in one single stroke, with the queen letting out a scream. In order to collect the rest of their payment, Blood and Cheese leave with the prince's head as proof. The book makes no mention of Helena stumbling into Alicent's chambers and finding her with Criston, since Alicent would have been tied up with her. Some of you may want to know what happens to Blood and Cheese, and for that I can only tell you what the book says. With the guards alerted to the assassination, Blood and Cheese make their escape through Maegor's tunnels and avoid capture. 2 days later, Blood is apprehended trying to leave King's Landing, and they find Jaehaerys' head hidden in one of his saddle sacks. He is subsequently tortured and gives up a few key pieces of information: that he was hired by Prince Daemon and was to bring the head to him at Harrenhal. At this point in the book, Harrenhal is under Daemon and Rhaenyra's control. 13 days of torture later, Blood dies from excessive torture. Rumors say that Alicent wanted Larys to learn Blood's real name so that she could kill any and all of his family. Cheese and the White Worm evade capture, at least for the time being, with King Aegon so furious that he had every rat catcher in the city hung, with Otto adding 100 cats to the Red Keep to take their place. Helena not only lost a child, but now has to live with the psychological torture of knowing she chose Maelor to die. Her mental health quickly deteriorates and gets so poor that she does not eat, bathe, nor can stand looking at her son. Alicent goes on to raise Maelor herself, while Aegon and his wife no longer sleep in the same bed.
Not for very long.
While his grief and anger, Aegon turns to drink, and nothing would ever be the same for him and his family. I know many House of the Dragon fans were wondering how they would pull this scene off, and this is where I turn it over to you. Did the writers do it justice, or would you have preferred something else? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I also come out with weekly breakdowns for every episode, in which I go deep into the lore of the show, so be sure to subscribe and check those.
I didn't realize, first of all, in the first thing, I just want to say right now, I had no idea they had Adam of Hall. I had no idea that the bald guy was Alan of Hall. My bad. Adam of Hall. That's his. Okay, so is that his father? Or I don't remember. I don't remember. I'd have to read the book again. But yeah, like that character, or Adam of Hall, is going to play a big part in the rest of the story. But anyway, such a great. I loved all of it. Yeah, the whole Blood and Cheese thing, in my opinion, I think they should have been more accurate to the book. But that's just me. It should have, like, it would have separated the show from Game of Thrones fully. Like, this show, that this stuff was more brutal. Or, you know, like, everything was kind of falling apart in Game of Thrones. But at the top of their dynasty, they committed some of the most horrible. In fact, it seems that a lot of the most horrible things from the book are no longer canon. Like Arya Targaryen, the girl who stole, well, not really stole, but took off on Baelor, Balerion the Black Dread, ran away with them, and then when Balerion came back, she had like worms coming out of her and had hot skin, and just there was never an answer to what really happened, but it was surmise that she went to Valeria. And whatever the hell killed everything during the Doom got into her, which was awful. And somehow also scarred Balerion, the biggest dragon there ever was. So, wow. Again, but George R. R. Martin will never answer that because, he's just given up on the books, apparently, which is really sad. Really, really is. But what are you going to do, right? But again, I agree. I think that the blood and cheese thing should have been more accurate to the books. I do. But, however, they did handle the scene pretty well. They, I guess it's because, again, they wanted to cut most of the event out. But again, they still they did what they did. Like, already stabbing a child and hearing his head being cut off is pretty horrible. And they use the sound and it's everything. I've heard the example used many times. What you don't see is worse than what you do see, And just imagining what they were doing is enough to get you go like, ooh. But yeah, what did you guys think? I want to know your opinion. And please smash that like button if you want to see more sexy and nerdy content. And subscribe if you think I deserve it. Also consider supporting me on Patreon. And I'll see you all in the next episode.